Dad was a rickshaw driver. So I came to the US in 2019 to pursue my undergrad education in neuroscience and public health. After school, I would come home and fill up water because in my community, water would only come in the evenings at 4 p.m. Struggled a lot. Dad had a drinking problem. Violence was a very frequent occurrence, and in those times, being the older one, I would try to protect my younger sister. Very loud, very physical. School really became my safe place. I went outside and I just sat like that on the staircase crying. And then Manusha Didi, who was our Marathi teacher at that time, she said, "It's okay. The best thing you can do right now is go back and concentrate on your studies." So much of my life trajectory happened because of Akanksha's support. So she showed me a bird's eye view picture of all the trees during fall, and I fell in love with that site. I'm like, I want to be in that area. And she said, "Oh, you should definitely consider joining Earlham College." I applied and I got very lucky with the full ride scholarship. And then I sat for the first time in the airplane. Very surreal feeling, very scary feeling, because I've only seen planes from the ground. Made me feel like, whoa, Shruti, it's actually happening. You're actually leaving your house to chase your dream to study abroad. जब मैं इंडिया जाती हूँ मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि मैं बड़ी हो गई हूँ. मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि मैं इतनी इंडिपेंडेंट हो चुकी हूँ कि मुझे अभी किसी की ज़रूरत नहीं है.
Shruti, welcome to The Rising Immigrant.
Thank you, दीदी.
So, let's start from the very beginning. मुझे आप अपने बचपन के बारे में कुछ बताइए.
So I grew up in Pune. I have a younger sister. My dad was a rickshaw driver and my mom worked at a private school as a staff worker. She's been in that job for the past 15 years now. And so in Pune, we used to move around a lot. We moved from town to town until we settled in an area called Konwa. That's where I had my solid, like proper, stable schooling from fourth grade. That's where I also started to study in a Teach for India classroom. I was in fourth grade and my sister was in third grade. From there, I finished my eighth grade in a Teach for India classroom, and that school did not have a ninth and 10th grade. So after that, my parents were really deciding whether they wanted to continue my education or marry me off. And continuing my education meant to enroll me in a private school, which also meant very hefty fees, and they were very worried about that financially. So because I had been a Teach for India student, I told this to my didis and bhaiyas at that time, and they came over. They came to our house. They spoke to my parents and said that, hey, there's actually an Akanksha school a little bit further from my house, but it is for 9th and 10th grade. You should really consider putting Shruti into that school. So they were like, okay, what is the fees like? When is it going to start? So after that, in 2014, I enrolled in the Akanksha school, where Saurabh Bhaiya was the principal. I finished my 9th and 10th grade, and I topped my 10th grade examination, and I got a full ride scholarship to study at the Mahindra United World College of India, which is 50 kilometers away from Pune. There I studied the international baccalaureate curriculum. I lived with international students. I shared meals. I learned about global conflict. I learned what leadership means. And from there, I graduated with my diploma and got a full ride scholarship to Earlham College in Richmond, Indiana. So I came to the US in 2019 to pursue my undergrad education in neuroscience and public health. I graduated in 2023, and I then moved to Boston to work at Brigham and Women's Hospital under the Division of Pharmacoepidemiology, where I study drug research with the FDA. We look at drug efficacy, their safety. We analyze whether patients are being protected through insurance claims data. It was all very new for me, and I've been in this role for the past 2.5 years now.
Very nice. So it's good to hear where you've come from and where you've reached. I wanted to dig deeper and go one layer deeper into what was home like when you were growing up. You said your mom worked as a staff worker at a school and your father was a rickshaw driver. What did it mean for you?
For me, so what home was, it was like a very normal Indian household where I was the older one, and after school, I would come home and fill up water, because in my community water would only come in the evenings at 4 p.m. So after school I would have my lunch and fill up the drinking water and the using water. I'd clean the house and make sure that everything is tidy before mom came, because I didn't want to put the load of house chores on her after she's been working a lot, like very intensive labor kind of work. So I would help her out a lot. And then she would cook food. I was still very young. I didn't know how to cook food. So she would cook food, and around 8:30ish, my dad would come home. And because he didn't have his own vehicle, he was renting the rickshaw from someone else. The commission, or like the earnings, per day earnings, wasn't a lot. I remember every day before leaving in the mornings, my dad would just leave 100 rupees or 50 rupees near our temple, like small temple we'd have in the house. And when my mom would come home, she'd grab that 50 or 100 rupees and she would have to run, just like buy groceries or buy vegetables, milk, the whole house on that. And it wasn't a lot. We struggled a lot because in Pune things were expensive. It is a city. Things were expensive to feed, and then to next day's lunch for my sister and I. It was very difficult. So oftentimes the arguments between my mom and my dad would be around, why don't you give me money? Because my mom's income was all of it was used to pay the rent. And the utilities, the electricity. So there was barely anything left. And whatever was left, she would always put it in savings and for our future too. So for per day expenses, we relied on dad's income, and which wasn't a lot. So that was more some of the challenges we faced. Yeah.
And was there any violence at home?
There were both my mom and dad. Although it was a love marriage, they love each other. They're also very angry people, and dad used to have a problem with drinking. He had a drinking problem, and so most of the money that he would earn in the day would also go in the drinking, and he would neglect the house needs and the needs of his daughters oftentimes, which my mom, whenever she sees that, she would get furious. She'd be like, I am not responsible to take care of these kids alone. I've been working day and night and you don't do anything. This is not fair. And so violence was a very frequent occurrence. Very loud, very physical. And in those times, being the older one, I would try to protect my younger sister. So I'd take her out of the house, or sometimes I would call my aunt or our neighbors. I'll be like, please, can you come home and tell them to quiet down? Yeah.
Were you able to concentrate in school with everything going on at home?
Not always. Sometimes I would be able to, because so in fourth grade I was like 9 years old. When that used to happen, school really became my safe place. I would go there and I would tell bhaiya, I want to learn this topic, I want to read this book, and I would forget about all of it. But when I started to grow older, when I joined the Akanksha school, I don't know, it affected me more. I kind of became very angry at my dad, and it wasn't very healthy. It was just like, why can't you understand that you need to support your wife? You need to support her, you need to support us. Why don't you understand? And a lot of that anger as a teenager, I would always carry that to my school, and sometimes that would distract me from my education. But like this one time I remember, there was a big fight at my at home one night before, and the next day I had to go to school, and I couldn't concentrate at all during Hindi class. So I came outside. I went outside, and I just sat like that on the staircase and kind of crying. And then Manjusha Didi, who was our Marathi teacher at that time, she came and she said, "Kai zala bada? What happened? Why aren't you in your school? Why aren't you in your class?" I told her what happened. I'm like, I'm so mad at my dad. I don't know what to tell him. I don't know how to support my mother, and I can't concentrate in my class. She said, "It's okay. The best thing you can do right now is go back and concentrate on your studies. Okay? We'll figure it out later on. Right now, I want you to go inside, drink water, and concentrate in your classes." So it would affect a lot, but classes and teachers made it easy.
Were you consistent at school, or were you in and out?
I was attendance wise, I was consistent.
Okay.
Academic wise, I was also consistent. I was never in and out. No.
Okay, good. How did you get in touch with Akanksha? What was the role they played in where you are now?
They played a very, very important role. I think so much of my life trajectory happened because of Akanksha's support. Because, like I said, if after eighth grade, I didn't have the teachers who came home and talked to my parents, I don't know what my life trajectory would have been.
What do you
like.
think would have happened to you?
It would have been definitely 1 year max, 1 year in a private school, girls' school. And then the financial burden would have been unbearable on my mother. And so marriage would have been a very real prospect at that time. So then I would have been 17, where marriage would have been the case.
Did you see any of your other friends get married at 17?
A lot of my friends within my community got married around that age, 16, 17, or like engaged in 16, 17, and then they get married after 18. But yeah, it was very common.
Do you have any friends who have many kids now, or big
Yeah.
families if they were married at that age?
Yes, I have a lot of my friends who were mother of 2 kids, and it's cute, but you can see the life trajectory. It could have been mine once. So yeah.
How do you think your life is now different from your friends who got married at 17?
How do I think it's different? I think it's different in terms of my career. I got a chance to work towards my dream and have a voice in my house. And I saw that so many of my friends, female friends, didn't have that. Growing up, they would always follow the norm and be obedient and kind of choose family over career. So I saw that as the big difference.
And do you think they stayed in this cycle of poverty, or was anybody from your community be able to leave that circle and go to the other side?
Unless they marry in a rich household, only then they can move up the socioeconomic bracket, but otherwise very highly unlikely.
So once you finished your elementary, middle school, high school, how did you come to the US?
So I was studying at the Mahindra United World College, which is a global network of high school. To compare it to our Indian education system, is the equivalent of the 11th and the 12th grade. So I studied there for 2 years, and I finished my exams. And then in the last semester, there was a college fair with all US and Indian colleges, undergrad colleges. And I saw them and I met them one by one. I researched about them and I fell in love with the campuses. I met with a few of them, but one really stood out, which was Earlham College. And I spoke to them one-on-one. I told them, I love the trees on your campus. How are the trees, the leaves of the trees orange? Because I've never seen that.
Right.
So they said, actually, it's very, very beautiful during the fall season. So she showed me a picture, and a bird's eye view picture of all the trees during fall, and I fell in love with that site. I'm like, I want to be in that area. And she said, "Oh, you should definitely consider joining Earlham College." So I applied, and I got very lucky with the full ride scholarship, and got the decision that I'm going there, but I didn't know how to go there. I didn't have the money for an air ticket. I've never sat in an airplane. I've never seen the airport. So I told all of this to Bhaiya, the Saurabh Bhaiya, the Akanksha's CEO.
Yeah.
And he was the principal at that time. So I told him, Bhaiya, I don't know how to go there. Look at this beautiful place. I want to go there and study neuroscience. And he said, okay, let me talk to someone about it, Shruti. So he managed all the funds and stuff, and I went there. I went to the airport, and I didn't know how to navigate the airport. I didn't know where
Were you
to
alone
go.
by yourself?
Yes, I was alone. So my family dropped me at the gate, and then with my 2 suitcases, I had to go alone and do check-in by myself. And then from there is the security. I didn't know that we had to do that. So I would ask people, hey, what do I have to do next? So then they would guide me. They were very helpful. And then I sat for the first time in the airplane, very surreal feeling, very scary feeling, because I've only seen planes from the ground. I've never sat inside them. So
What did it make you feel?
it made me feel like, whoa, Shruti, it's actually happening. You're actually leaving your house to chase your dream to study abroad. And that one was very gratifying. It was very gratifying.
How did you learn English?
I was not very good at English. In 4th grade, when my Teach for India first teacher, he recorded a video and he shared with me a couple months ago. He said, Shruti, look at your English now. Look at this video and now. So at first, he would tell me to read English books. So I would read Roald Dahl's Matilda, and then I would read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Harry Potter. I didn't understand a lot of the words, but I would go to him and ask, Bhaiya, what does this word mean? And how can I use it in my day-to-day language? So from there, the exposure was there. And then I also participated in a Broadway-style musical, Maya, which was my first time singing and acting in English. So that gave me a lot of confidence expressing in English. And then, of course, with the international environment I was in at UWC, that also helped a lot. I learned so many different dialects and few versions of, English and Spanish and French. So that also helped a lot.
So when you first landed here, what was your impression of America? And were you surprised, shocked, excited? Like, how did you feel about it?
When I first landed in New York, I wanted to get water. And my family had given me $100 in cash, and I didn't know how to use the currency, the American currency, because now I know 1 dime is 10 cents and 25 quarters is
25 cents quarter, yeah.
Four of them is one. So I was like, oh, how do I use it? So I went to the shop and I said, here's the bill, can I please get water? And then she gave me the change, and then I was like, how much do I need to give you back? And she said, don't worry. So she rounded it up, and then she gave me the rest. But then this one guy came, and then he told me that actually you paid her extra, so she needs to give you like few cents more. So then I went back and I said, can you please give me a few cents, the remaining more? And then, so that first interaction with an American person, I felt like, oh, people are lovely, very helpful, because he saw me struggle with the currency. I didn't know how to count. I had my phone calculator on. I'm like, da, 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 da. I didn't know how to calculate the total amount. So he was very helpful. But first impression when I came on campus, student life was so different, but definitely so much more helpful towards international students settling in. The dorms were so different. I lived with an American girl, and her lifestyle was so different. It was a lot of adjustment. Definitely homesickness was part of the challenge as well, navigating that and settling your life, like finding a part-time job. How do I do that? I don't know how to do that. Setting up my social security account, my bank account. I didn't know how to do that. And they had luckily they had people to help us through all of that, getting a phone number. I think slowly, day by day, I got one thing off my list. Okay, Shruti, get your SSN in. I got that. Get a job now. Applying on different websites and interviewing. So getting all of that while still going to classes and understanding what is happening around me. Because the classes were also so different than
How
how
they're structured back home in India. Yeah.
exactly. They were so different, and I'm like, because in India you understand the teacher first on the first day. Here we understood the syllabus first, that this is going to be the course, these are the requirements, these are the expectations. If you fail, then this is the grade, and this is what you can do to help improve your grade, which were after school tuition classes, blah blah blah, but nothing about the teacher. So that was different. So you had to really focus on the classes and then manage all of these other things. Yeah.
So how was your life different from your American roommate, your background?
With my American roommate, we barely spoke. She never spoke to me, but I would try to, hey, do you want to grab a cup of coffee, or do you want to have dinner together? So I would try, but she was very shy. So I didn't want to push her. I struggled a lot with making American friends. Over the 4 years, I had barely any domestic friends, but a lot of my friends were UWC and international students on campus.
Got it. You said college life was different from, what you experienced back home in India. What other differences did you see in the culture and community here in America versus back home in India?
Culture and community, definitely the education aspect, the student life aspect, where after classes everybody wants to go out on the weekends, or I don't know, just different world. That was different.
Tell me how did you feel about it?
Like partying and stuff. No, very very different, very scary, because I've never done anything like that, and seeing such a casual culture around it for students, I got scared. I'm like, what is this world? But I wanted to have a first time experience, so I had it. It was very positive, so that was nice. But I also saw how they were trying to protect students, especially children, in schools with, active shooter drills or training. So that was a huge adjustment. To feel that, wow, a school
That it's a real threat
can be
at a
threatening for some students, and understanding how to navigate that, because we had drills. We also had drills on our campus. We had what does it mean? How can we support each other? So we had all sorts of those conversations on campus.
Unfortunately, that's such a real thing here in American schools and colleges that I feel sorry that the education system has to prepare students to be ready for an attack, which is like absolutely horrifying. But I guess this is where we are at in America. Going deeper into your life, your trajectory, do you think your trajectory in life would have been different if Akanksha, Teach for India, and other organizations or people who supported you through it wouldn't have?
It would have been so different. From early marriage to like basically giving up on my education. Like today I know that I can do so much with my education. I know that I want to work in women's health. I want to work on maternal disparities in India. I know that I want to also teach dancing. I want to like right now I told you last night I want to become a step instructor. So all of that, through education my horizon has expanded. And if it wasn't for the teachers, if it wasn't for my didis and bhaias from Akanksha and Teach for India, that wouldn't have been possible. And I feel so grateful, so very grateful. I get to express through music. I get to express through my writing. I get to form genuine connections with people without the language barrier, because English is not my first language. And in a country, I get to establish myself. I'm earning independently. I'm sending money home to my family in times of need. I'm saving up for my future. All of that I'm doing by myself. I'm not relying on people. I'm not relying on a male partner.
Right.
So
That's empowering.
That is very empowering. That gives me a lot of confidence within myself, and I am truly grateful.
With you being financially independent, how has life changed for your family back home?
It has changed a lot. So now, I mean, before, even when I was in college, I was doing two jobs at once, and I would save up for my own personal expenses. But now with full-time job, but before I wouldn't support them as much. Like for instance, during the pandemic, we wanted to buy our house. It was our first thing we owned, and it was my mother's dream. She wanted a house for all four of us. And in the pandemic, the prices of the house went down. She was like, this is the perfect opportunity, but I'm lacking some funds. I'm like, Mom, don't worry, I saved up enough, let's get it transferred. And it's not a lot, but we'll do something of it. And I when I saw that I was able to support my mom through that, or even now as a full-time earning employee, every time she's like, beta, because she has arthritis, so she is always on some or the other medication every single day. And so those medications are also expensive. So she doesn't say anything, she doesn't say I need money, but I understand that I need to support her. So I help her financially through that. Yeah.
What is your sister doing now?
She is working at a company. So most of her, so both of them are like together in our home. We hold a lot of pride in that, our little sweet home. So she is working at a mortgage company that's based in Australia, but she does night shifts with them.
ओके अगर आपको आपके जैसी एक लड़की जो आपको यहाँ देख रही है आज पॉडकास्ट पे सुन रही हो या देख रही हो, उसको आप क्या कहना चाहोगे?
मैं उसे बस इतना ही कहना चाहूँगी कि बहुत ज़्यादा हिम्मत रखना है आपने, क्योंकि आप जिस समाज से आते हो, बहुत लोग आपको दबाने की कोशिश करेंगे, आपको डोमिनेट करने की कोशिश करेंगे, लेकिन आपको आपकी आवाज़ इतना स्ट्रांग बनाना है अपने मन में, अपने दिमाग में, कि आपने उनको हिम्मत से कॉन्फिडेंटली बोलना है कि नहीं, मुझे ये ज़िंदगी मेरे लिए नहीं चाहिए, मुझे ये नहीं चाहिए. You should have the audacity to say no for whatever thing that is going against your dream. I would say that to that girl.
That's powerful. एंड अगर आप अपनी लाइफ को देखते हो हाइंडसाइट में, क्या कुछ डिफरेंटली करते?
कुछ डिफरेंटली, बहुत सारी चीज़ें कुछ डिफरेंटली कर सकती हूँ. जैसे कि मे बी आई शुड हैव गिवन grace to my parents, क्योंकि given the circumstances, they tried their best. They've always wanted the best for me, for my sister, but the circumstances didn't bring out the best of them. But at that time, I should have given them a little bit of grace. I should have been patient. Maybe that outlook towards my parents. Towards me, I should have been more like driven. A lot of the push that I got was through my teachers, but never from me. They identified the potential, but never from me. So if I would have been more driven, more outgoing, more outspoken, it would have been a different personality for me. Yeah.
Very nice. जब आप गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में पढ़ रहे थे, तो आपको कभी एज अ स्टूडेंट इनइक्वालिटी का एहसास हुआ?
बिल्कुल. इनइक्वालिटी इन टर्म्स ऑफ द एजुकेशन जो प्राइवेट स्कूल में मिलता है और जो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में मिलता है. जैसे कि मेरे इतने प्राइवेट स्कूल वाले फ्रेंड्स नहीं थे, बट एक थी जहाँ पर दे हैड अ डिफरेंट करिकुलम. दे spoke so well in English. They had access to different kinds of books that we didn't have in our government school. वहाँ पे तो लाइब्रेरी भी नहीं थी. तो कहने को इट वॉज एन इंग्लिश मीडियम स्कूल, लेकिन प्रॉपर मोड ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन वॉज इन हिंदी, जहाँ पे टीचर्स लोग भी ठीक से इंग्लिश नहीं बोल पाते थे, और एकेडमिक्स बहुत ही कैजुअली लिया जाता था. एंड पढ़ाई करने का तरीका भी बहुत अलग था, बहुत मगअप करना था, फैक्ट्स बोलने थे. तो वो उस तरीके का एजुकेशन सिस्टम गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में बहुत प्रेवलेंट था जब व्हेन आई वाज अ किड.
Got it. जब हम अलग अलग कल्चर्स के स्टूडेंट्स के साथ रहते हैं, स्पेशली आप अमेरिका में जब डॉम में थी, तो सबसे ज़्यादा चैलेंजिंग क्या लगता था?
जब मैं डॉम में थी तब मुझे आई think I struggled to fit in. I've been with international students, but it was in my country. So I had that kind of backup ki it's my country, and they are international students. But यहाँ पे I was the international student, and I struggled to understand the ways with which American students would forge bonds, would make friendships. तो उस तरीके का
कोई इंसिडेंट याद है?
जी उस तरीके का क्या बोलते हैं उसको, धाड़स वो नहीं था, करेज नहीं था मुझ में. जैसे कि एक दिन मुझे याद है, मैं एक दिन जो डॉम के कॉरिडोर में आई वॉज रीडिंग अबाउट समथिंग. इट वॉज लेट इन द नाइट. आई वॉज रीडिंग अबाउट समथिंग and मैं अकेली थी क्योंकि my roommate wasn't talking to me. So then a bunch of girls came like laughing and giggling, and they were like, oh, you know what happened, this happened, that happened. And one of them saw me and उसने देखा कि ये तो अकेली है, चलो इसको बुलाते हैं. Then she said, hey, do you want to come and hang out with us? I have never spoken to them, I don't know their names, मुझे नहीं पता वो मेरे क्लास में भी है या नहीं. And मैंने बोला श्योर. सो आई क्लोज माई बुक एंड आई वेंट एंड आई सैट एंड आई टोल्ड. फिर मैंने बोला कि आप लोग कौन हो, कौन से ईयर में हो. तो उस तरीके का इंटरेक्शन कभी किया नहीं. तो वो नया था. फिटिंग इन बहुत नया था इन टर्म्स ऑफ सोशल सर्कल्स में. कैसे बात करते, कैसे रिप्रेजेंट करते, वो सब नहीं पता था.
अब ऐसा महसूस होता है कि यू बिलोंग हियर?
अब ऐसा लगता है, नॉट फुल्ली, बट ऐसे लगता है कि आई कैन फाइंड माई वे. Not fully. I don't think I fully belong here because part of my heart is still in India with my mom and my sister. But I know I can, जैसे कि अभी if you tell me to live in a different city by myself, I know I can build a life. I know how to find a community. I know how to talk to people. Yeah, I can do that.
But there's that, thing that's sort of missing in you.
Yes, yeah.
आपको लगा कि इंग्लिश बोलने से या अच्छे स्कूल में पढ़ने से, एजुकेशन लेने से आपकी कॉन्फिडेंस में फ़र्क आया?
बिल्कुल. इंग्लिश बोलने से उतना नहीं, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि मेरा कॉन्फिडेंस मेरी खुद की भाषा में भी आता है. लेकिन एजुकेशन से कॉन्फिडेंस आया फॉर श्योर, क्योंकि जिस तरीके का कॉन्फिडेंस मुझे मेरे पढ़ाई से मिला है, वो मुझे कॉन्फिडेंस अगर मुझे नहीं मिलता तो मुझे पता नहीं मैं क्या करती. क्योंकि जब मैं पढ़ती हूँ, मैं किताबें पढ़ती हूँ, फिर मैं उनके बारे में अपने दीदीज़ या फिर अपने टीचर्स, अपने फ्रेंड्स से डिस्कस करती हूँ, तो ऑटोमेटिकली एक शिफ्ट होता है दिमाग में, कि एक बिलीव फॉर्म होता है, कैसे लगता है कि यार मेरे पास भी ओपिनियंस है और मैं उनको शेयर कर सकती हूँ.
राइट.
सो वो एक
ऑटोनॉमी है, राइट? एजेंसी मिलती है कि मैं भी अपने विचार शेयर कर सकती हूँ.
Yes.
आई ऑल्सो मैटर, राइट?
यस, बिल्कुल.
वेरी नाइस. आगे क्या सोचते हो, क्या करने का मन है?
आगे और पढ़ाई करने का मन है, क्योंकि पढ़ाई इज़ द ब्यूटिफुल गिफ्ट इन माई लाइफ. तो आगे मुझे मास्टर्स करना है, मास्टर्स ऑफ पब्लिक हेल्थ, where I study about the public health system, and I go back and I work in a maternal research, so we can work on how to reduce the maternal mortality rates in India, which are very high. We can protect our mothers to give them safer way to deliver babies. We can protect their health while they're delivering babies, making hospitals more safer. So I'm very interested in that field, and I want to build my skill set and my expertise into that through my masters. That's the plan, but let's see how it goes.
No, we're on a good track, I feel like. बहुत बढ़िया. बॉस्टन कैसा लगता है एज अ शहर?
As a शहर, Boston is beautiful. I love Boston का जो youthful community है, because there's a lot of student population over there. I love the Indian community over there. I found a temple जहाँ पे I go almost every other week, every 2 weeks, and I would make shira and I would distribute it in the temple. So I formed a community over there.
Very nice.
So as a home, very nice. I love my my roommates, my apartment. बहुत ही बढ़िया independent life है Boston में.
जब आप इंडिया जाते हो बॉस्टन से, तो आप खुद को एक डिफरेंट नज़र से देखते हो?
जब मैं इंडिया जाती हूँ मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि मैं बड़ी हो गई हूँ मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि मैं इतनी इंडिपेंडेंट हो चुकी हूँ कि मुझे अभी किसी की ज़रूरत नहीं है. सो आई सी दैट चेंज.
I think that's the best feeling one can have, especially as a girl growing up in India, where the system is very patriarchal and we're
Yep.
dependent on men in our families, either fathers, husbands, brothers. I feel finding your voice and also finding your own identity, carving your own niche, finding financial independence is the best, most liberating gift ever.
आई एग्री.
अगर आप आज एक गवर्नमेंट स्कूल की लड़की से मिलो जो आपकी तरह सपने देख रही हो, आप उसे क्या बोलोगे?
मैं उसे बोलूँगी कि देखते रहो. अगर वो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में है तो अपने परिस्थितियों के वजह से डो नॉट एवर एवर question your dreams, क्योंकि there will be people when you ask them and when you look in the right place who will guide you to that direction towards your dream. So I will say देखते रहो सपने और उसके लिए काम करते रहो.
That's beautiful. पीछे मुड़ के जब आप देखते हो तो कौन ज़्यादा प्राउड लगता है, आज की श्रुति जो सपने देख रही है या बचपन वाली श्रुति?
मुझे लगता है कि आज की श्रुति, क्योंकि बचपन वाली श्रुति को पता नहीं था what made her happy. बट आज की श्रुति को पता है what is making her happy and how she can pursue it. तो डेफिनेटली आज की श्रुति.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Shruti.
Thank you.
आपने बड़ी ऑनेस्टी के साथ और बड़े खुल के मुझसे आपने बात किया, आज अपनी स्टोरी शेयर की, अपना बैकग्राउंड शेयर किया, अपने होप्स, अपने ड्रीम्स शेयर किए. एंड आई विश यू ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट. यू आर द राइजिंग इमिग्रेंट. यू आर माई शो. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.